San Francisco 49ers travel to Seattle to face the 7-point favorite Seahawks, who, again, feels like we just saw this matchup. Oh, wait, we did. Week 18, uh, number one and first and foremost for the Niners, I think it's how do you create explosives? How do you create big plays down the field? Because this was an offense going into the Eagles game that was like, oh, Kittle's kind of on the fence. He tears his Achilles, he's out. Pearsall didn't play last week. He could play in this one. Um, how are they going to create big plays? One of the first plays of the game is a 60-yarder to Demarcus Robinson. Later in the game, they have a double pass touchdown for Jawan Jennings. So you have to get like uber creative to create these explosives that in turn limit the volatility that a Quinyon Mitchell interception here or there, because he had two of them, creates. So again, like against Seattle, this was a team that I believe I counted they had like 4 explosive plays against Seattle, and 2 of them were on that drive where McCaffrey drops the football and it's an interception in the red zone, and they kind of actively lose that game at that point in time. So that's kind of what it comes down to me with the Niners, because I think none of us are going to sell ourselves on this defense, even if it is Sam Darnold. And so how does this Niners offense get to 30? Because I think that's the question in their building too, is how do we get to 30 each and every week? Because if we don't, we probably don't have a chance.
Yeah, they were limited to what,
Well, the
3
big
points
question
in their
is
last matchup in 2018 or not 20 week 18. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And not to mention, I mean, my heart does go out to 49ers fans strictly because George Kittle is a massive loss that you're probably not going to have for the next year now. It really sucks because like it's one of my favorite players in the league. That's a big dude to bring down with that big of an injury. Really sucks to see him not being able to perform at this level. But with all that being said, it is going to be interesting to see what happens. Lock in a Tungus touchdown this week, I think.
Okay. No, for me, I mean, if you could score 30, obviously, for the Niners, I mean, that would be ideal, as you said. But this, like, the bigger question is, can you score 30 on this defense? Because there has not been really any team that has been able to do such. I'm going back through their schedule to find how many teams have been able to even do that. So the Bucks did it in week 5, and let's keep on scrolling here. The Bucks did it in week 5, and then that very last matchup against the Rams, they were able to do it, but the Seahawks ended up winning. So, like, again, this defense has been absolutely stifling and really hasn't been able to let any team put up 30 on them aside from those 2 outlier games. And again, the big question is going to be Kyle Shanahan's scheme against McDonald's defense. They love to play nickel. I'm really interested to see how the nickel matches up against this offense. Again, it's worked very well for them, especially in the Week 18 game. We will see, but I can't not leave this segment without talking about playoff Sam Darnold, right? Because a year ago, a year ago this time, we were talking about Sam Darnold and this Vikings team and how amazing it was and how fun of a story it was for Sam Darnold and his resurgence and everything. And then he went out and, pardon my language, but absolutely shit the bed. So I think obviously the biggest factor here is, can Sam Darnold actually live up to the moment? Again, he's looked good. He's better than what anyone could have expected him to be for Seattle this year. But can we now parlay that into a good postseason run? Because you were not able to do it last year. Can we, maybe not see ghosts this time around and take advantage of this bad 49ers defense? I think they'll be able to, but that's where my eyes are going to be on is what Sam Darnold looks like when the lights are the brightest.
Yeah, no, he's such a wishy-washy quarterback, man. Right? It's really weird. But yeah, no, I think you guys covered it pretty well.
I think another point of emphasis that I want to focus on is how how do they kind of attack Purdy in the blitz scheme? Because that game a few weeks ago, those front four guys, the amount of stunts and twists and just overall pressure packages they threw, those guys played out of their minds. So and even like Tariq Woolen is a corner who doesn't really do it, but he was going at people. Like just being able to do that and be able to embody that kind of mentality that McDonald has. I'm interested to see if Seattle just kind of brings it again. I have no reason to believe they won't, but you know, if the Niners kind of start the same way they started against the Eagles, it's one of those deflating moments. Like if you do get this crazy outlier, 60-yard explosive play, like who knows? But still, what those guys were able to do in the last week of the season was just phenomenal. And then also like talking about the Seahawks, like talking about JSN, like I think just interested to see how he is deployed in this one. Jair Brown, he's going to be out, and he kind of will match in the nickel at times, come down when they play those 6 DB packages because of limited linebacker depth, and then also their other nickel is Upton Stout, who's still a rookie, who's really good, but he is a rookie, so interested to see how they match up.
That's a big thing. I'm interested to see if they try to force the matchup with JSN with Upton Stout. Because again, Upton Stout, he's been fine, but he is a rookie. And I feel like that is the spot that you are able to take advantage of. Like Shanahan has been able to do that throughout history. I mean, look what they did against the Eagles. They just said, we're going to target Adoree Jackson on every single play. And it worked very, very well for them. So can Clint Kubiak on the flip side kind of reach into his Shanahan bag there and try to match up his best wide receiver against what he perceives as the worst, matchup on the defensive side of the football for the Niners, or if they're just going to let, again, JSN do what his thing is and say, well, we don't really care because he's going to beat anyone regardless. So yeah, I'm interested to see what they end up doing with the, matchups and creating matchups for JSN specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also can Seattle run the ball. But moving on
Great question.
because they dominated the run of the game. The Rams travel to Chicago to face the Bears. Again, both of these teams, electric Saturday night victories, come from behind in the final 2 minutes victories to punch their ticket here. And interested to see, is this a race to 40, really? Because that's all I'm thinking in my head. Because I just, you think back to what the Rams really struggled to do was getting Caleb Williams on the ground, or getting Bryce Young on the ground. How is that going to fare against Caleb Williams? And then for the Bears, allowing a half of football where it was pretty much flawless from the Packers. And now you're facing an even more talented bunch in the Rams. Just a interesting chess match from that side.
I'll let you take it away, Ryan.
Yeah. The Bears, man, that first half was disgusting, right? Nobody wants to talk about the first half. Let's talk about the second half because you got to play well for 60 minutes, right? That's been basically what this season has been about. Just talking a little bit about the game. I don't know exactly how much this is going to make a difference at the end of the day, but it's a fun little thing to kind of pay attention to is how the weather is going to be. It's just a classic cold game, and I love to watch those no matter what. Now, people are saying that this is going to be more so in the Bears' favor than the Rams. Stafford played in Detroit. Like, I don't think that we can bank on that as much as people think. Right, but I get it, but like you got to play Green Bay and Chicago twice a year. You know what I mean? Each, like, the guy's used to it at this point, and Devontae Adams used to play in Green Bay. Like, they've got pieces that can play in the cold. I don't think that it's going to be like, oh, it's cold outside, and they're just going to shrivel up and die. Like, let's chill out a little bit on that, all right? Like, this is still a very good football team. Now, my point of view on this is that the last couple of weeks of the regular season, plus I would even argue the Carolina game, Rams have not been playing very good football, right? Like, I wouldn't say that it's fantastic whatsoever, and definitely not living up to their expectations in terms of their offense and what they're able to do. Um, to almost lose to a team like the Panthers, right? When you've got Super Bowl ambitions, is just shocking to me. And it was fun to watch just because now I understand this is the team that my team will end up facing. So, I think this is a very winnable game for Chicago. But it's also because of the bad first half. It's a very winnable game for the Rams as well. It's an interesting matchup for both sides just because both are very capable of playing very ugly football. And it's going to be a very ugly game to play in because of the weather, the location, in the crowd, by the way. Like, there were so many notices that were put out before the game saying, make sure that you shut up during the offense, that way they can kind of work a little bit easier and to just get rowdy, right? And Chicago has been begging for a competitive team for years, and it's finally here. And it's fun to say that. You've got a quarterback that can go out and win you games. And so we can't pretend that that's not going to be a factor, but at the end of the day, you've got a future Hall of Famer at Matthew Stafford on the other sideline, and it's going to be a really, really close game, and I'm pretty positive that that's why in the second prime time, nighttime slate, that's why the NFL put them there. And I'm really looking forward to this one playing out. Win or loss, I mean, still greater than Green Bay. So.
Yeah, as you said, I think your Super Bowl was last week, aside from the actual Super Bowl, right? All that being said, no, I think the biggest question, and I'm being serious when I say this, is like, can the Bears put together 4 quarters of good football? Because that has been their enemy all season long, and again, they've been able to overcome it numerous times over the course of the season. But if you put up a first 3 quarters like against this Rams team, like you did against the Packers, you're not going to win this game because the guys on the defensive side of the football and the cold-blooded killer that is Matt Stafford. So you're going to have to be able to put together 4 quarters of football. And it's inspiring to see, like, this is what the Bears offense can look like when they're clicking on all cylinders. Now, again, let's do it on all cylinders. And then Matt touched on it. I'm just interested to see what the Rams defense looks like because they were not really able to get after Bryce Young and actually force him to do anything outside of like the first 2 drives. And then after that, he figured it out. And if Bryce Young was able to play that well against you, what is Caleb going to do to you? So I'm just interested to see what it looks like, see the different pressures that they draw up, because they do have guys that can get after Caleb. Again, they didn't play to their 10s last week, but if they can actually draw up some pressure and get after Caleb, I think that's going to be the key for them. And then the Bears just need to force turnovers. They've not been a good defense aside from forcing turnovers. Click the button. But like this Bears defense, like their cornerbacks, they're open 24/7. Like these corners are not very good aside from actually getting turnovers, which sure good
is their job, but yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the coverage part of it really sucks, though.
I was going to say, but they're not doing the coverage part of it. The other piece of their job is to actually be able to cover people. And again, this isn't like a shot at Romeo Dobbs or any of those guys, because I think they're NFL players and they're good in their own right. But if they were able to create separation and get that open, what is Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams going to be able to do against that defense? So they just need to – I don't know what they need to do to fix whatever that problem was last week. But they're going to really have to, again, play on their 10s, they're, in their own right. So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to this game a lot.
Yeah, I mean, when you had said, you got to generate pressure against Caleb because you couldn't do it against Bryce Young, one of the things that I would argue is you have to generate pressure against
Matthew
Stafford.
Convert on the pressure, by the way. Convert, because they were able to get after him and pressure him, but they weren't able to actually do anything.
And you're facing one of the most elusive quarterbacks in the league at this point now.
And that's
so
what
I
I'm
see your
saying.
point.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But it goes the same way on the other side of the ball, right? Like Matthew Stafford is not the type of quarterback to do what Caleb Williams or Bryce Young can do in terms of elusiveness, right? So if you can get to him, I mean, he's also not going to turn over the ball as easy as either one of those guys, right? So it's like, if you get to Matthew Stafford, now you're talking. And this is one of the situations I had actually talked to my girlfriend about too, as far as, potential teams that the Bears could face in the next round following Saturday's game. I think the Bears will win this game if they're able to force a turnover or two, strictly because, I mean, the Rams offense is just that good. And if you can get them to kind of struggle even just a little bit, you've got one leg up. And I don't know. It's going to be fun to see exactly what goes on here, because I feel like it could either end in like the most close, unbelievable, awesome cold game like in NFL history, like one of the coldest games, and not only that, but just most fun, whether it's high scoring or low scoring, back and forth fist fight. It could be one of those games, or it could just be like, hey, the Rams just dropped 50 on them and the Bears are packing, like, you know what I mean? Like it could be either one of those situations, but obviously, I'm hoping for the first one. Who knows?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just what happened in the second half defensively on how they're able to force 3-and-outs and things like that. Is they just started spamming man coverage. They started spamming press man. You can't really do that against Devontae Adams and Puka, because those are guys who just win one-on-one, where the Packers don't have anybody who, outside of Dobbs, who was winning one-on-one, like, to win in those certain sets. So I'm interested to see what the deployment is defensively. If this is just I'm going to sit in zone until we get cooked Dennis Allen game plan, I don't know. I wonder if we see more 5-man pressures with Kyler Gordon, because that was something that I was really interested last week. And then
TJ's back too.
He kind of comes in, and you can create, maybe that's their changeup. Maybe it is throwing dime out there because TJ Edwards is going to be out. But then you're leaving yourself volatile to duo and the run scheme. But who knows? Once again, I had the read last week that this is going to be a race to 40. I think that I love points in this matchup. I think just both offenses can score. I have the same one this week. I don't see where stops are going to come outside of weird interceptions or just weird plays being made along the second level, just because I think how efficient these play callers and quarterbacks are at this point in time. So interested to see how that all figures out. But is there anything left on this one?
Nope.
No.